Good morning, grade 7s. Welcome to lesson 8, part 1. In this lesson, we will be talking about multiplication and division of decimals with powers of 10. This can be found on page 97 in your textbook. If you have a look at the notes I've made, you'll see I've got two arrows here. I've got a pink or a red one and then a blue one. So when we are multiplying and dividing decimal fractions by 10, 100 or 1,000, there's a very simple rule that you need to follow. So when we are dividing, we know the comma must always move to the left. So you make a note of that. You can say divide, the comma must move left. So if we're dividing by 10, the comma is going to move one space to the left. The reason for that, 1, 0, 1 space. If we are dividing a number by 100, it's going to move 2 spaces to the left because 2 zeros, 2 spaces. If we're dividing a number by 1,000, it's going to move 3 spaces. 3 zeros, 3 spaces. So the number of spaces is determined by how many zeros we are dividing by. So divide, again, you move the comma left. When we multiply, the comma must move to the right. So it goes the opposite way. So left is divide, right is multiply. Now it works exactly the same thing, except now we're going to the right. So when we multiply by 10, the comma moves 1 space to the right. When we multiply by 100, the comma moves 2 spaces to the right. Sorry, that's my dog in the background. When we multiply by 1,000, the comma moves 3 spaces. Sorry, guys. Okay, so dividing, our comma moves to the left, multiplying, our comma moves to the right. The number of spaces for both is determined by the number of zeros. So if we have a look at these examples over here, it says example 1, calculate. Now example 1 is all about multiplying. So the first one is 1,42, and that's multiplied by 10. So multiplication, our comma, does it move left or does it move right? It moves right. The arrow points to the right. Because we're multiplying by 10, it only moves 1 space. So it moves up 1 space. So our answer then becomes 14,2. Because it was between the 1 and the 4, it moved 1 space to the right. The next one is 0,008 times 100. 100 is 2 spaces to the right because we're multiplying. So it's 1, 2 spaces. So now, if you leave all the numbers as is, our decimal would be 0,008. But it's not necessary to write 000 because that's the same as just saying 0,8. I'm just going to make a note here so you can see. The first one, it moved 1 space to the right. The second one moved 2 spaces to the right. Now the last one, we're multiplying by 1,000. So it moves 1, 2, 3 spaces. Now you'll see when we move the comma 3 spaces, we're left with an open bucket. There's no number above this bucket. So when there's no number, you are going to put in a 0. So this one is 2, 3, 0. That's already given. Then there's an empty bucket, which you add in the 0. The comma moved to the end, and there's obviously nothing after the comma, so you put a 0. So 2,300, 0. We again, anything comma 0 is the same number, so we can leave out the comma 0. So our answer is 2,300. So when there's an open bucket, like there was here, you just fill it with a 0. Right, then example 2, we're going to do division. So in this case, it's going to move to the left. The comma will move to the left. So our first one, we've got 94,2. So the comma is going to move one place to the left. So our answer is 9,42. Again, I'll make a note. It moved one space to the left. The next one, 1,04 divided by 100. 100 has 2 zeros, so it moves 2 spaces. Okay, there's my 2 spaces. Once again, there's an open bucket there, and the comma moved to the front. So it's comma, then that open bucket, we put a 0, then it's 104. But now, be careful with the decimal. You can't have no number before the comma. If there's nothing there, we're going to go put in a 0. So it moved 2 spaces. There was an open bucket. We put a 0 in there, comma, and then because there was nothing, we added a 0. The last one, 372,9 divided by 1,000. 1,000 is 3 zeros, so we move 3 spaces to the left. So it's 1, 2, 3. There's no open buckets, but the comma moved to the front. So it's 3, 7, 2, 9. Again, we can't have no whole number, so we're going to put in a 0. So all that you have to do, or all that you have to remember, open buckets, you must include a 0. So you're going to write in a 0 for whatever open bucket you find. And if the comma moves to the front of the number, remember you can't have a comma with no whole number before it. So if there's no whole number given, you are just going to put in the number 0. So that's how we multiply and divide by 10, 100, or 1,000. If you remember that little section there, just remember divide is always left, multiply is always right. Count the number of zeros, and that's how many spaces you must move. Okay, so that's the end of the lessons for this week. You'll notice I'm not going to post lessons tomorrow. The reason for this, I want you to use it as a catch-up day. So any work you're behind on, any exercises you haven't completed, or the knowledge test from last week, please make sure this is completed today and tomorrow, and then Monday I will be posting memos.